Thank you all so much for being here tonight, and many, many, many thanks to Richard for opening up Unity North for me to bring this work that has transformed my life and to my sweet friend Mary, who connected Richard and I. And tonight's topic is the paradox of oneness. And I am sure, as you all have been on a spiritual journey or are in it or way far in it, no matter where you are on it, you probably have heard this concept of oneness. And you probably have wondered, okay, there's this oneness and we're one, but if there's only one of us, how come there's so many of us here? We even sang about us and them. So there's a concept of us and them, of me and you. However, the spiritual journey keeps telling us that what there really is oneness. So I wanted to demystify the whole thing around oneness. And I wanted to bring a little bit of science to it and also speak to it from my own personal experience, what I call the spiritual side of it. So I'm going to start with a little bit of background on my own journey. My journey started 10 years ago when my mother passed away. And at the time that she passed away, it was the first time that I had ever experienced intense grief over the death of somebody. And after many, many years of being in this grief, 2 years of nonstop crying, I finally got to the place that I realized that I wasn't so much grieving the death of her at that point. I was actually grieving the death of me. Because if I would have died at that time, at 40 years old, I felt like I really hadn't lived fully. There was something inside of me that had not been fully expressed, that I remembered about myself when I was little, but at 40, I didn't want to die a bitter, lonely old woman like my mother had. So that sent me on a search to find out, okay, there's got to be more to this. You know, those questions that we ask ourselves on this journey. Who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? And watch out, you ask those questions and whammo, you're going to get sucked into this journey, like it or not, you're going to go in. And for whatever reason, I knew I wanted to get to the root cause of my suffering, and more importantly, I grew up knowing about Jesus. I grew up with a real love for this man. And as I began my spiritual journey, I began to study lots of books about, the sayings of Jesus. I began to study Buddha and Muhammad and all kinds of teachers. And one thing that I knew is that if Buddha, if Jesus, if Muhammad, if they could become enlightened, guess what? So can I. There was absolutely nothing in my consciousness that said that I could not achieve what they had achieved. Because to me, they were just amazing men who were on a journey and came to know God, came to know Source, Universe, Spirit, whatever we want to call that thing that creates everything. So as I progressed on my journey, I began to ask questions. I began to understand more about myself. I began to understand more about the concept of oneness. I began to realize that there was so much more out there that I did not know about. And the reason my work is called The Power of Awareness is because I became aware that I didn't know much. I knew a tiny little bit. I had a tiny speck of information, like one dot in all of infinity. And I thought I knew it all, and my whole life revolved around what I knew. So needless to say, my journey was about everything else that I did not know, because what I knew wasn't getting me too far. So anyways, through this journey, I had the experience, and I remember it till this day. It was in August 16th of 2007. I had an amazing, amazing encounter. I went to see a spiritual healer or a energy healer, and as she was doing whatever she was doing around me, I had my eyes closed, so I don't know. All I know is that I felt this most intense thing moving inside of me. And for about a period of 45 minutes, as I laid on this massage table, I came to the place of meeting God. It's almost as if my body raised from the table, and I know I wasn't levitating because I could feel the table underneath me, but everything about me moved and moved upwards and moved into the heavens. And when that happened, there was this vision coming towards me, and the vision had a face. I knew it was God, but it had a face, and it had the face of Jesus because it was familiar to me. And in that familiarity, I felt so comfortable in this incredible light that was moving towards me. And as God, Jesus, came towards me, I had no choice. I was being sucked right into that perfect union. And as my body merged with God, as my body merged with Jesus, it was the most unbelievable thing I've ever felt. The closest that I can come to understanding other people's experience of it is when I hear people write about near-death experiences. Well, people tend to kind of have to die, their bodies have to die for them to have that experience, or at least be clinically dead for a little while. For me, it was the beginning of the death of my ego. It was the beginning of the death of my separation. And as I merged with this amazing source, amazing energy, I realized, oh my gosh, God is only one thing. It's the energy of love. And as our bodies merged, and as you can imagine, this was an amazing, there are not enough words for me to really explain what I experienced. So I'm doing the best that I can with the words that I have to try and convey what happened. But as the merger happened, we just completely disintegrated into a bazillion, trillion, gazillion pieces. And all of these pieces created the universe, created all of the stars in the universe. And I've never felt such intense love, such intense knowing of what I am. So after that session, needless to say, I was on a total high. I knew myself as love, but I was still in human form. Still had a body, still had an ego, still had the thought of separation. And in that moment, what I got to experience was knowing myself as what I really am, as love. And then the work began. So for the past 5 years, I've been doing the work of undoing my belief in separation, the mental construct that I have that you and I are not one. And obviously, you guys have heard about the dark night of the soul. Well, let me just say, ouch. It's a very uncomfortable place to be in, letting go of that identity, peeling off those layers, especially giving up being right. And you know what? At the end of the day, all I found out that I was giving up being right about everything that was wrong. And what ended up emerging was everything that was true. Now I like to only be right about truth. So I'm a champion for anything and everything that is about love, that is about oneness, that is about connection. So I came back after that experience needing to look at all the thoughts and beliefs that I had around separation. I studied philosophy, science, religion, you name it, psychology primarily, and began to understand what happens to us. How do we come to forget what we really are? And about 2 years ago, I went to the airport to pick up my husband. And as I was standing there waiting, about 20, 30 minutes before he got there, those of you who've been to the airport, you know what it's like. You know, you wait for people to come up the escalator and then you meet them. I'm standing there observing people, and I'm watching because I knew I want to connect with everybody. I want to find God in everybody. That was just my practice. It's my practice. And as I'm standing there, I'm watching everybody. I'm watching the moms that are aggravated with the kids that are running around. I'm watching the people looking at their clocks and looking at the board, looking at the delayed signs. I'm watching people pacing about in their own little stories. And it was almost as if I was watching everything in slow motion. And people were milling about doing their own thing, everybody in their own little world. And I began to notice how all of a sudden everything began to merge. It was almost as that experience that I had. All of these separate people began to become one field. And in that one field, everybody, they changed, they transformed from looking at their watches, looking at the board, pacing around, screaming at the kids, you know, where is so-and-so, people coming up the escalator, the hugs, the kisses, the crying. All of that blended. It was just the most amazing experience. And all of a sudden, I was one with all these people. The whole airport was a state of oneness. The whole city became this one place. The energy of expectation, of anticipation, of delay, of everything, of excitement, of joy, of sorrow, everything merged. And it just became nothing but this soup of like liquid love, like gooey love. It was like jumping into a whole tub of, what do you call that? Gack? Whatever that stuff was that when we were little we played with. And the whole city was one, and the whole planet was one. And that's when I realized, oh my gosh, I now understand this journey is about opening up our hearts, but it's understanding with the mind what separates, because it became really clear until these two are in alignment, we cannot experience enlightenment. Most people are operating just from their mental understanding of who and what everybody else is. some people understand, have a physical experience of what love is, but they're still in their, thinking about separation. And to me, enlightenment was the alignment of those two things. The head and the heart in service. But the heart leads, and the head is supposed to be following. So the work, I knew, oh my gosh, it's for me to feel love, and every time I have a thought of separation, that's what I need to shift. Because when I'm thinking separation, I feel tight, tense, dense, I feel constricted, I feel, stuck. But when I'm believing in oneness, when I'm believing in everything that is true, that I felt, that I experienced, my thinking changes. So instead of going to, oh my gosh, that woman, look at her, she is different, it goes to, oh my gosh, look at that woman, she's a reflection of me. And then I can find myself in you when I'm not thinking we're separate, when I actually feel the connection that we have. The most amazing thing. So my work has been about sharing what I have discovered with others. And I'll tell you, you cannot understand it with the mind. You have to have a physical experience of it. And you've read it in books, you've seen the movies, you've talked to the friends, you've heard the songs. Go spend a little time with a 2-year-old and you'll be able to remember. You'll be able to remember what it's like to be lost in that joy and that excitement and what we're here to do. So my work has been very simple, helping people understand what caused us to forget. Because the spiritual journey is about remembering. And the cool thing is all we're going to do is remember what we are. Again, giving up being right about what's totally not wrong in a bad sense, but what is not who you are. So anyways, I came to know very clearly, the heart unites, the head divides. The head is not a bad thing, the ego is not a bad thing, we just need to train it to be in service to that which it comes from. So now I want to share with you the science aspect of this. So I did a little research. I know I've got some friends here who are very scientific, won't mention any names. And there is a necessary understanding, in my opinion, about the scientific aspect of this, because it lets the mind grasp something that it can understand. Now I'm going to invite you to take from my talk whatever resonates. Anything that doesn't resonate, that doesn't make sense, that seems confusing, just leave it right here. Promise, you just leave it right here. Because I want to invite you to open up your mind. Because there's something inside of you that I promise you I can see is cheering and is very excited about this information that you're getting. And it can't wait for you to hear it so that your transformation can continue to deepen. So this is really exciting. For me, this is sacred to be standing here in front of all of you guys. So let's go to the science piece. I'm going to show you a photo. We all know the human body. Everybody's familiar. We all have one, right? So that's pretty easy. So I did a little research. The human body has 50 to 75 trillion cells in one human body. Information came from the biologyexchange.com. Verifiable science. All right, one body, 50 to 75 trillion cells. Have any of you guys ever argued with that? Is that a fact that you guys can agree with? All right, very cool. So the next piece of evidence, the ocean. Now this one was a little tricky, because as I was doing my research and I was trying to figure out how many drops of water are in the one ocean. Well, I went to the physics forum and it told me that it could only measure, it did a study in one little area, the Pacific Ocean. And in the Pacific Ocean, I don't know how many, mathematicians are here, but there are 1.24 times 10 to the 25th power drops of water. So I have a really smart son, and he got his calculator out, and he said, I don't have enough zeros. I'm like, okay, so let's figure it out. So he wrote it out, and he wrote it out on the back here. So we went and researched how far back these zeros go. So we went to trillion, and he says, I don't know how to go further than trillion. So he researched, thank you, Google, and we got to quadrillion. I think it was quillion, zillion, something like that, and we didn't know beyond that how many more zeros. So that's how many drops are in one Pacific Ocean. Do you guys agree that there's one Pacific Ocean? Mm-hmm. And are you guys, does it kind of make sense that there is 1 quadrillion, bazillion, trizillion drops of water in it? Okay, so the math experiment is working, huh? Give or take 2, exactly. You guys familiar with this? The Milky Way? Astonishing fact. And of course, this is not even an exact fact, but this comes from, according to Universe Today, there are approximately 200 billion stars in the Milky Way. One Milky Way, one galaxy, over 2, approximately, could be give or take 1 or 2, billion stars. Doesn't that amaze you? Yeah. We know that there is one Milky Way. We know that there's one galaxy. And we are okay with 2 billion or 200 billion. Another little interesting fact. They have estimated that there are hundreds of billions of galaxies in the one universe. I mean, now I knew my son we did not have enough zeros in the house. We didn't have a big enough piece of paper to calculate that one. Hundreds of billions of galaxies in the one universe. So are we all in agreement with the facts that there are things that are one, but also comprise billions, trillions, quadrillions? Everybody's comfortable with that? So how is it that if there is one source from where everything comes from, and we know ourselves as part of that one source, we continue to look at each other as separate? And the answer is really simple. The source of all that is, that incredible magnificence that created everything, can only experience everything it created through you and through me. We are the opportunity for that to have an experience. We are the opportunity for that to get to know the beautiful mountains that it created, to experience the beautiful oceans, to be able to see the galaxies that it created. And we still can't find the end of the universe. I mean, this thing just is at infinity, continues to create. But we are the opportunity for that experience. So what has happened to us? From the moment the first one of us showed up, what has happened that has made us forget that we're one with that source? It's really simple. One of the things that I love about my journey is that it's brought me to the place of the truth is so simple. That's why they keep telling us, be like a little child, which means stop using your mind, stop using information that others gave you and return to what you came and you gifted the world. So every single one of us was born as a bringer of love. But our mothers, our fathers, our teachers, our preachers, except for Richard, the government, the media, have told us who we're supposed to be, do, or have. And we have spent our life going out there believing that somehow I'm a separate being that needs to become something so that everybody out here will approve of me. And in the process of trying to please everybody else out here, we forgot that the only love that we ever need, the only approval we could possibly ever merit, is the one that came with us. So as we began to realize that through the way our parents treated us, through our experiences, that mommy and daddy were the ones who were giving us love, we totally forgot that we are the bringers of love. Because in every single one of us is the seed of love. So how does that express itself? In a bazillion of ways. So that when I see you, I can see another form of me. So that when I see you, I can see another shape of me. When I see you, I can see another, set of eyes looking back at who I am. And we've had people telling us this forever. So you know what's really exciting about this moment in time right now, what is happening? We're being called back to truth. I love it. So think about what's happening right now like if it was a rubber band. Imagine at this point being the beginning, where this source that creates everything, from it emanates everything. So at this starting point, we have been stretching ourselves to that infinity of which that source is. And we've come to the place that the rubber band is going to snap back. So we're just returning. We're returning to remember what we are. And in the process, some of us can go along and get with the program and sort of kind of enjoy the ride. It's a little bumpy at times, but it doesn't have to be horrendous. And those of us who resist it, guess what? That rubber band's going to yank us back because we're going back. We have gone as far apart in separation as we possibly can. And the change is happening. We're coming back. We're absolutely coming back home. So scientifically, if we know that one can hold trillions and billions and gazillions, we saw it with the water, we saw it with the galaxy and the universe, we saw it with our human body. When are we going to get that every single human is part of the one body of humanity? Isn't that exciting knowing that? All we're doing is dropping the differences that we have and seeing it as right or wrong and accepting the differences that we have as just this incredible, beautiful garden. I was talking to a group of ladies today, and they all happened to garden, and I said, would you have as much fun in your garden if all you had were red roses? The entire garden was nothing but red roses. And every one of them said, no, I like my roses, but I like my daisies, and I like my hydrangeas, and I just love my, whatever. We're a garden with a multitude of flowers, with a multitude of variety, individualized aspects of the one source of all that is. Isn't that fun to know? I just get all excited and tingly when I think about that. So one of the things that I'm really excited about is Richard was so generous and said that I could offer this workshop that I'm doing here in January. It's a 2-day workshop. Let me tell you a little bit more about how this workshop came about. I love helping people remember who they are. It is a process of undoing. That's all we're looking at, is everything that we're not. That's why it's uncomfortable, because we actually thought that that's who we were. But there's an organization called a Daily Om. I don't know if any of you guys get those emails, but it's a humongous organization. They've got millions of people that get these daily messages. And they have asked me to give them a workshop, an 8-week course that they can offer to their peeps. And I thought, well, I'd like to test it out. And talking to Mary, ended up talking to Richard, and I'm going to offer that before it goes out there on Daily Om. I want to offer that here for anybody who's interested in looking at the ways that we forgot what we are, so that we can begin the process of returning to what we are. So it's a very gentle process of remembering. And I'm only going to do it with 15 people because I want to make sure that it's very experiential, and it's going to be in January, 2 Saturdays, the 5th and the 12th. I'm doing it like minimal charge, which is only $100. So after this service, if anybody's interested, let me know, and I'll take your information, and I'll contact you later. So that was the public service announcement there. But anyways, back to that oneness. I would love to take you guys on a journey. I would love for you to have an experience of what I'm talking about. So it's not just information, because the information that we have in our head needs to drop into the heart. It needs to be experienced in the body for us to have transformation. I know I had a lot of spiritual information, and my spiritual ego was bigger than that door. I probably couldn't have walked in here a couple of years ago, because I knew what everybody needed to do to get enlightened. Yeah. So anyways, I love helping people move that information from the head to the heart. So it's just a pleasure that I'll be sharing this with you. And it's just going to come through me. I'll be speaking it and offering you it to the best of my ability and experience with it. But before we get to that, does anybody have any questions? If there's any questions about this, I want to make sure we address that. No? Everybody's comfortable with that story, that sharing? Great. Great. So I'm going to invite you to feel yourself fully supported by your chair. Just sit into your chair and let this chair cradle you. Let the chair hold you as if it was the arms of love. Feel yourself fully supported on that chair. Some of you may want to ground yourself, and if you want to do that, just see a cord going down into the earth and holding you steady so that your chair won't wobble. Because I'm going to take you on a journey. And what I'm going to invite you to do is, in your mind, imagine yourself, the whole of you, as either a body of water, as either the human body, or the galaxy. Whatever you prefer, imagine your body as that. And as you begin to feel your body as that one body, regardless of what you selected, imagine that within it is bubbling the essence of love. Maybe you'll feel like liquid love, maybe you'll feel like bubbles, maybe you'll feel like ripples. But imagine in your body something getting activated, something moving. Something is energizing you. And if you'll give me a gentle nod, I'll know that you're there. If you're feeling like you're one body and you're feeling an aliveness within you. Now I want you to imagine that from that body, there's going to be a little bubble. If you're an ocean, there's a little bubble coming up from that. If you're a galaxy, imagine that there's a little star being born out of your body. If it's a human body, imagine a little bitty miniature human just emerging from your body. And as you feel that emerging from you, being birthed from you, now imagine 100 of those. Imagine your one body giving birth to 100 more of that. Now I invite you to multiply that by 1,000. Feel your body, the life force in it, just birthing more of the same. Now I want to invite you to multiply that by 100,000. Your one body, your one source from which everything is being birthed, 100,000. Now I want to invite you to imagine that a million particles, a million bubbles, a million humans, a million stars are emerging from your one body. Now let's multiply that number and make it 1 billion. Your body is giving birth to 1 billion. 1 billion bubbles if you're an ocean, 1 billion stars if you're the galaxy, 1 billion humans if you're a human body. Now let's go to 7 billion. Imagine out of your body you're giving birth, you're creating humanity, 7 billion people from one human body, 7 billion stars in the galaxy, 7 billion drops in your ocean. And allow yourself to fill yourself with the joy, the energy of all of that emerging from you. Feel the magnificence of knowing yourself as one body with all of that just emanating from it. Experience the richness of the essence of what you are. Experience an unbelievable love that honors and accepts everything that comes from it. Now imagine all of that beginning to return back to its source. So let's take out of the 7 billion, let's take 100 and return them back into your own body. Then have 100,000 return back into the one body. Now I invite you to bring 1 million back into your body. Now bring 1 billion back in. And when you're ready, bring the rest of all of your particles, the rest of all of your stars, your drops, your little humans, bring them back into unity within the one body. Now you will always be able to know yourself as that which creates worlds and that which is created by the one source that creates everything. And when you see another being, you will know yourself as one with them, because we all come from the same human body. We all come from the same body of God, body of source, body of spirit. And whenever you're ready to return back into this room, back into unity, into the Peace Chapel, do so knowing that within you, you carry the feeling of being merged with all of the universe anytime that you want to. And whenever you're ready to come back here, just open your eyes and know that you are loved. Know that you are one with all with one. And know that our ability to be at peace comes from seeing what is the same within each other. Our ability to be joyful beyond words is that ability to connect with one another. And when you go out into your everyday lives, which is where the spiritual practice takes place, look for God in everybody. Look for Source in everything. Look for it in the flowers, in the dogs, in the cats, in the people. Look for it in the prisoners. Look for it in the politicians. Look for it in the terrorists. Find that inside of them that is the same as you. And we begin the process of bringing down the walls. We begin the process of returning back to what we're from, and we'll do it in a very gentle and peaceful way. Thank you all so much for this incredible opportunity. I am so grateful for this. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you.
Thank you.